What's up, my fellow scruffy looking nerf herders, and welcome to the Carbonite Chat. Today we're going to be talking about a comic from the old legend Star Wars Tales number 9. Now this is covering Darth Maul fighting Darth Vader. Now it starts out, and Darth Vader and a group of stormtroopers have headed to this planet where they've kind of got information of possibility of where plans for the Death Star might be. Now obviously this is Legends, and Rogue One was not a part of this, so it kind of is playing along with those lines. When they get there, Vader walks out, and his stormtroopers are kind of eerie. There's something going on that they're not sure, and as he flew in, you see 3 cloaked figures, and so Vader splits up, and he heads towards kind of this doorway, and he sends the rest of the troopers to look around and see what they can find. As those other troopers are walking around, they're slowly just kind of picked off. They're unable to see whatever it is that's kind of jumping through and just cutting them apart. Pretty brutally, really, cutting their heads off. And there's one left, and he's, not sure what's going on, and then he's got caught from behind. And you never see who this character is. And then Vader and them begin to move inside, and as they're moving inside, the 2 stormtroopers with him are discussing how this is, this feels weird, this feels really bad, something's up with this. They start talking about the rumors about this place, and that it was a place that a man, Baron Yorn, ended up coming there because he was trying to do experiments for using the dark side, that it was kind of like a focal point for the dark side. And so in this, they begin to start, getting weary of what's happened. They talk about how Baron Yorn, when they came to check on them, that no one else had survived, and he was there, and he had like ripped out his tongue and I believe gouged his eyes out as well. And he had apparently completely gone mad. About this point, one of the stormtroopers starts kind of getting choked up, and he's like, grasping at his throat, and the other one goes, "Vader, no, we didn't mean it," thinking that they actually kind of, bothered him with kind of their discussion of the dark side. And that's when Vader's like, "I'm not doing this." And then the other one is choked out as well. And that's when these 3 cloaked figures show up, and they begin to question Vader. They tell him that they were the ones that brought Vader there, that there isn't any plans to the Death Star, but actually that they wanted to be able to kind of test him, or more so root him out, because they don't feel that he's worthy to be an apprentice to Darth Sidious. They think because he was a prior Jedi, and they say that they can sense that there's still light in him and that he hasn't been able to extinguish it, that he doesn't deserve that there's a true apprentice that needs to be had. And that's when Vader begins to step towards him and says, "You're going to die for saying or doing this." And that's when Maul jumps out of nowhere and just kind of stops Vader's blade. And they get into a quick little kind of spout, but then the 3 figures stop him and say, "No, this isn't how it's supposed to be done. We need a proper testing. And, Vader, you're not from the lineage of Bane. And so you don't belong in this." And so they say that they actually resurrected Maul. Again, this is, prior to the Clone Wars, this isn't done exactly the same way this was. How they did it, this was done with dark magic. And they ended up bringing him back, and by bringing back what they say is a true Sith, someone from the lineage of Bane, they're going to have him destroy and kill Vader and prove his worthiness to Emperor Palpatine, and that's then going to cause them to finally have the true 2 Siths that are needed, that they feel is the right and heir to the Bane lineage. And so that's when Darth Maul kind of calls him and says, "It's time for us to fight. Are you going to fight?" And Vader's like, "I'm not just going to fight, I'm going to kill him." Vader moves forward as he says, "Maul is dead and you are a sham." Maul says, "No, you are a Jedi. You refuse to extinguish the light. Unlike me, my darkness, my hatred is unending." Vader reaches with the Force to use one of the troopers' weapons. Maul blocks the bolts with his saber. He then mocks Vader and pushes the troopers off of the ledge. Vader says he needs no help destroying an imposter, and Maul says, "No, it is you who hides his unworthiness." Vader moves forward with an attack as Maul flips over him. Maul calls him a Jedi and says, "You stand your ground well." He then strikes the bridge and says, "But how good are you without the ground beneath you?" Maul questions his teaching. He says a true Sith does not fall. Vader says Maul was taught well, but Vader learned better than he did. Maul then runs to get a more advantageous location. Those watching are in awe of Vader's ability, but still believe that Maul will win. Maul being pure evil, and Vader, they still see light in him. Vader strikes high and Maul blocks, then using the other side of his double-sided lightsaber strikes low against Vader before flipping to the other ledge, leaving Vader wounded as Maul gloats. Maul says let's finish this, and Vader says that he will. Maul questions his ability to be an apprentice since he is more machine than man. He says a machine cannot hate. Maul says that he killed Obi-Wan's master and Obi-Wan killed Anakin. So how can Anakin possibly defeat Maul? I guess he kind of forgot that he lost to Obi-Wan as well, which makes sense because the next thing that you see is him getting his saber cut in half, much the same way that Obi-Wan did it in Phantom Menace. Maul then takes the dual sabers and attacks. As those watch from above, Vader blocks with his saber on one side and then catches Maul's arm with the other. Maul strikes Vader's helmet, knocking him down. Maul says finally the Emperor will have a true apprentice. Maul says there will be no Jedi funeral for you. He goes to strike down Vader finally and says that his hate was not enough to defeat him. As Maul moves in to strike, Vader calls his saber back to him and ignites it through the both of them. This leaving Maul just in complete awe, not understanding what happened. He begins to question, how could you possibly have defeated me? Obviously, as it's stated throughout the entire thing, Vader, as they view him, as a Jedi, and he has light inside of him. So what could have brought Vader to the point that he could have called a lightsaber, plunged it through himself to be able to strike Maul on the other side? Maul, of course, saying, what hate could you have inside of you that could be enough hate to destroy me? And that's when Vader, very interestingly, I very much enjoy this, says that his hate for himself, he hates Anakin. This constant calling him out and reminding him of things that he's failed on and that he's had this Jedi past, and this is something that he struggled with, this being not too long before New Hope. He's had many years of training to be a Sith, and this would be along the lines of why he's built up this hate inside of him, and this is what leads him to be able to do anything that would require him to be able to defeat Maul and stay underneath Emperor Palpatine. Emperor Palpatine is all he has left. It's very interesting as this is the Legends novel, and we didn't have Rogue One at this point, and it was probably trying to answer the question of why Vader was weaker and wasn't as movable when he fought Obi-Wan in A New Hope. This being shortly before that, him having to strike through himself, being cut across the helmet, also being cut across the side as well. So multiple wounds to him would have slowed him down. Not to mention, if you look at just the kind of canon concept of the last time you fought this character, you had, he left you cut in half, burning on the side of, about to fall into lava. If you fight someone and you get knocked out cold, the next time you go in to fight them, you're probably not going to be too jumpy to try to react and see what happens. I mean, that's how I see it. But in this, interestingly, it explains why he might have been that way. More to me, I just love the fight. There were some issues with the lightsaber dueling. Very much the issue being that Vader was using a reverse grip in many situations, and that's probably just the artist not understanding Vader's fighting style, because he would not use a reverse grip at all. A lot of the moves were very similar to what you would expect from Maul, and it's pretty interesting. I really enjoyed this. I'd heard about this. I hadn't read it prior to this, and it was very, very interesting. Obviously, right after that, Vader goes and leaps over, goes to the others, saying, this was going to be your death. I told you when I got here that y'all were going to die for this. And they're just in awe. They couldn't believe that it happened. They just knew Maul would win. And that's when they begin to just all start being electrocuted and die. And that's when you see that Emperor Palpatine is right behind them. Emperor Palpatine showing up, seeing that Vader had won, and congratulating him for his victory. Vader questions him on whether or not he knew what was going on. Of course, Emperor Palpatine says he doesn't, but I believe that Emperor Palpatine knew what was going on and left that as kind of a secondary choice. But the comic doesn't really hint either way to if that was really true or not. If he was actually, kind of planning that as a possibility to come back. Of course, it's a different way that Maul was brought back than what was done in the Clone Wars. But still very interesting. It's kind of, I was expecting Vader to ask, you know, if this is something that you know of, is this something that could have been used to bring Padme back? Because obviously that was one of the things that he, you know, he loved Padme. The whole reason he went to one of the big reasons he went to the dark side was because he was trying to, you know, get eternal life, protect those he loved. Could he be able to bring Padme back? That would be what I would imagine he would be asking in this situation. But I very much enjoyed the lightsaber duel. I had mentioned to someone before that one of the things I want to start doing with this channel is start discussing some of the lightsaber fighting. The fact that we don't even talk about training anymore, there's no skill behind it. You have skill. But prior, the Lucas, Star Wars, they had specific styles. There's 7 forms of lightsaber fighting. And I wanted to begin to, probably on Saturdays, begin to pick out a group of people and have them fight against each other. And I break down and discuss each character's fighting styles and how they would do against each other, how I think they would do against each other, and then obviously allow the comments to begin to discuss. And I'm not sure how to do it best, but I would like to try to work out, depending on how the comments kind of go, what's the best route to kind of get a judge and scoring system on who would be the best. I know to an extent it's going to be fairly easy with the top, but I think the middle will be really interesting. And seeing this, the Darth Maul versus Vader comic from Legends, I thought this would be really interesting. And so I think next week I'll actually start off with Darth Maul versus Vader and discuss how it would be without, you know, this was laid out in the comics, but how might it actually be if they actually fought in a Star Wars movie, if it took into account all their training, all their technical abilities, their weaknesses and strengths versus each other, and how that might actually come out. If that's something that you would be interested in, let me know down below, because that's probably what I'll end up doing next Saturday. Also, as I was making this, because I was looking at some of the different grips they had and how some of it was a little bit off, I could possibly try to break down this actual fight technically through the comic to talk about what each movement was, why they were doing it, and you know what style of fighting that they're using, because Vader has multiple techniques that he does use. Obviously, both of these are master Siths, so they have more than one repertoire in their bag, and Darth Maul specifically is a Juyo specialist, so he has the ability in all 7, and I would say that Vader has the abilities in all 7, but he more tends to focus on Form 2 and Form 5. But if those are any things that would interest you, please let me know down below. I will probably most likely, no matter what, do the Darth Maul versus Vader kind of versus thing next Saturday. But if you would like to see me break down this comic and this kind of fight scene and just focus more on the fight scene and talk about what it was that actually happened as far as technically, if that's something that would interest you, let me know, because it interests me. I love UFC, I love fights, and so it kind of is just a different way to look at it. And maybe that's something that can kind of bring in, because obviously we're not getting any training or any discussion on fighting techniques or style or anything to do with that with the new films. And so maybe we can begin to go and look at them ourselves. And, you know, maybe I can learn a few things as well if, you know, there's some stuff that I don't know. But we'll see. That seems interesting to me. I want to know if it would be interesting to you. And anyways, thank you very much for watching this, and never forget, you Nerf herders, I love you.